Look, I think the public need to have some reassurance that that this issue that we're experiencing at the moment around gang-related criminal activity is something the police are working to bring under control. And I'll certainly, that's my expectation of police. Now, the operational decisions that sit behind that are not something that I get involved with. I cannot direct them, and nor should I. But I think that the public should expect that the police will be working hard to bring this tension under control.
It's interesting that you use the word reassurance. Is that what you're here to do as the minister, to bring sensibilities and calm, some reassurance?
Well, look, ultimately the Minister of Police, it's not an operational role. I don't direct the police operationally. That is ultimately the job of the Commissioner and then the people who work for the Commissioner.
I understand that, but is that as the Minister, is your job to bring some of that calm?
I think it's also to make sure that the police have got all the tools they need in order to be able to do the job.
Just on that, which tool do you see as that top priority for you to be able to give to the police?
Oh, look, we're working through that at the moment. The police, over the last little while, have been in discussions with the government, and Minister Allen and I have now picked up that in terms of working through some of those additional options that might be available. We're, of course, looking at the firearms protection order legislation for the Select Committee at the moment to make sure that we've got everything right there. I'm not going to foreshadow other things that we might consider, but I do think we'll be looking to move quickly if there are other things that we can do.
How quickly is quickly?
Well, just watch the space. Give us a few days.
What have police asked for?
Again, I'm not making any announcements today, but we are looking at a range of different options.
How helpful? 6 months from now, what does success as police minister look like?
I think bringing some of this gang-related tension back under control. I think looking at the youth crime and the underlying drivers around youth crime and some of the more visible aspects of that we've seen. So the trend in youth offending is actually trending down, but what we're seeing is that the youth offending that's taking place tends to be higher profile. And so understanding that a bit more and making sure that we're really combating that at every level that we can. I think those would be two key measures of success. And clearly we've still got some more work to do around firearms.
How do you see the government able to de-escalate gang tensions? Are you going in there to mediate yourself or the government? How does the government intend to de-escalate?
I'm not intending to get involved in that operational level. That wouldn't be appropriate for me to do that. Having said that, I do think that there's more that we can do to deal with some of the underlying contributors to gang-related activities and gang-related crime. And that includes looking at how people end up in gangs in the first place and doing more to stop that from happening. Looking at what the key business interests of gangs are, and drugs are a really big part of that, and doing more in that area I think can make a difference.
Is it time to regulate drugs, do you think?
Was that?
Is it time to regulate drugs?
Oh look, I'm not getting into that conversation today.
You've got a corrections minister who has prided himself on the number of prisoners coming down. The work that you're now doing, is that going to, I guess, clash up against the work that he's doing? Because is the end result here with police to actually just put more people through the criminal system?
I think the thing that we should all be aiming for is to stop people falling onto a pathway that leads to criminal offending in the first place. And I don't think anybody would disagree with that. I don't think you could rationally disagree with the notion that it's better just to prevent offending than to deal with the consequences of it after the fact.
That's true, but when you've got gang violence the way that you have, isn't some of the result of that going to be that you are going to lock more people up?
It could well be.
So that is going to directly go against the work that Calvin Davis has been doing for some time now to try and pull down those prison numbers.
But there's actually work that's been happening in the prisons to reduce reoffending. So I just had a text message just literally on the way down here from Graham Lowe, an iconic New Zealander who's been doing work through the Kick for the Seagulls program around literacy and numeracy in prison, because actually that makes a difference to reducing reoffending. And actually many of the people, according to the message that he sent me, and I haven't had a chance to respond yet, but I will, many of the people that he's working with have had exposure to gangs before. So there are more things that we can do if people are in prison, we should be using that opportunity to actually give them the skills so that when they get out of prison, they don't fall back into a path of reoffending.
Have you been briefed on the reported truce between the two warring gangs?
I had some conversations when I was up there last week. Obviously, those are relatively operational issues, but I did meet with the team in South Auckland who are working on the gang-related activities at the moment, and they got me up to speed with what they're dealing with.
And where is that at?
But look, again, those are operational things, and so I'm not. While I will be briefed on them, I'm not going to make my habit of of then doing the public briefing part of that. That really is an issue for the
What
police.
involvement
So
did the
apparently-
police have in that mediation?
Again, that's a question for them.
Apparently, it's a community group that helped facilitate that truce. Do you perhaps see that sort of enabling other community groups to do similar?
I think police having good outreach and good links within the community is got to be a good thing for policing. And again, for the operational effects of that and the operational aspects of that, I'd refer you to the Commissioner.
National seems to be exceptionally adversarial in the police portfolio area. What areas of bipartisan cooperation do you see? I mean, when you're talking about stopping people joining gangs in the first place, that's a multi-year potential
Of course it is.
project.
But look, where they come up with good ideas, we'll consider them. Where they're just coming up with ideas that have been proven not to work, then
Is there tough on crime mantra one of those?
Look, I think New Zealanders listening to the National Party will be having a sense of deja vu and thinking we've heard all this before, because it was the same kind of rhetoric that they produced last time they were in opposition. And then when they got into government, as they always do, they then toned it down.
You mentioned drugs repeatedly. I mean, what can the government do here? I mean,
Look,
the crackdowns that hit.
I'm not going to get into making up policy on the hoof, but I think it's something that we will look at.
Just in
Look at
terms
what?
of the things that police have asked for, obviously police have long wanted general arming. Would you look at that or any other form of expansion of police arming?
Look, police have the access to firearms now where there's a risk profile that justifies them having access to it, and I don't propose to change that. In terms of whether they should be carrying guns as of normal, so every police officer walking the beat carrying a firearm, I don't think that's justified, but making sure that they've got access to firearms where there's a risk that justifies that, they can do that now.
Is
Are you
general
reviewing-
arming in
are you
some
reviewing-
communities a valid idea?
Well, look, where there's a risk profile that suggests that police can make a judgment that they feel they need to carry a firearm, they're able to do that.
So
Auckland,
you gonna-
downtown Auckland's been described as feral for a long time, rampant crime, particularly with country opening up its tourism gateway. What, if any, discussions have you had about increasing police presence in downtown Auckland or opening a police station there?
Where the police go and how they deploy their resources, those are questions ultimately for the Commissioner of Police.
But would you provide advice to the police about the merits, perhaps, of having an enhanced presence in downtown Auckland or a police station?
One of the things that I have done in the brief period of time I've been Minister of Police is make sure that I'm familiar with the Policing Act around what I can and cannot do, and I cannot instruct the police around where or how they should deploy their resources, and nor should a Minister of the Crown be able to do that.
just back on the arming of police issue, you just there's no changes that you would expect to see happening there in terms of making it easier for police to access
Not at this
firearms.
point.
Are you going to expect to see changes to the pursuit policy?
Sorry,
The pursuits, police pursuits?
I know that's something the police are reviewing at the moment. All right, better go. Thanks.
Thank you.